Okay, well, we enter a new week in our Graduate Research and Design class, and I'm excited for this week. This is a week where you get to start becoming involved in a research study that I'm involved in right now. And I figure what better way to learn about research than to become involved in it. Um, before we get into that, I just thought I'd mention I'll be grading your lit reviews, your preliminary lit reviews in the next few days. So watch for feedback on those over the next few days. But anyway, yeah, you get to prepare for a research activity. And this research activity, the information is listed here. So in a few weeks, this will be due. You'll need to prepare now to complete this activity. So you're going to take a look at the assignment here under research activity, and it will give you more information there about what to find. And then you can read the IRB form and the results so far. So I've got the IRB form that I had to submit in order to be able to complete this research. Of course, all research, as you know, must be reviewed by a board, at least research involving human subjects. And then the results so far, I have a write-up that is just a draft, but it provides the results of the quantitative part of the study. So I submitted a survey, I administered a survey, and got responses from students. So that's what's going on with that. The results, you'll be able to read about that. I submitted, or again, administered a survey to a large group of teachers in South Dakota, wanted to find out about their technology use in their classroom, and you'll read about what I found out from those results after crunching some numbers using statistical methods. So now I have IRB research, or I have IRB permission to also do some follow-up interviews, and I have assigned you a person to contact for your follow-up interview. So you guys are going to help me do the follow-up interviews. This is a qualitative portion of this research study after the quantitative is already finished, which is the survey. And so if you click on that link, you'll be able to view who you're assigned to contact. And my suggestion is, as it mentions here, is to use their email address first to get into contact with them and to invite them to have a basic research study. Or have a basic interview with them. Now, under the research activity here, there are certain things you need to say. So be sure to take a look at that assignment, know what you should say in your email before you send that email out to the person, and before you make any contact with your research participant. You need to follow the protocol. And so read the research activity assignment so that you know what to write to the person and you know what questions to ask them once you have an appointment set up for an interview. And then before you actually do the interview, you're going to do a phone call interview with one person. You'll need to set things up so that you can record the call. Now, to do this, you can use a regular phone on speaker mode and just record the sound using another device, such as Sound Recorder on Windows or QuickTime Player. So put the phone close to your microphone on your computer, and then turn on a recorder on your computer. And if you have trouble finding a recorder or getting it set up, let me know. And then you need to test this once by calling a friend, having a conversation, then playing back the recording you made to make sure it worked. The reason why you need to record this is because you must type up all of the questions that you ask and all of the answers that you get from your person that you interviewed for a transcript that you submit to me for the research activity. So, but yeah, be sure not to type or make other noises while you are interviewing the participant, as this will be distracting to them. So instead, just record it. Just have a good conversation with them, record the interview, and then after you're done with the interview, go ahead and type it up. And there are also apps that you can install if you want to. You can go and install something like WePhone that will allow you to make calls and record them as well right onto your phone. But you have to get dollar credits in that amount for that, and so that's why I'm not requiring that. It's probably easier just to do the speakerphone option, but it is a little bit distracting with the noise that speakerphones can cause. So you need to make sure that you're in a quiet place when you have this conversation and ask these questions. And then, of course, make sure that it is recorded. Don't do the interview without recording it, because I need the full transcript of every word in the interview. So that's getting ready for that research activity. So let's take a look at the research activity itself just real quick to make sure that you understand that as well. It is due on March 5th. And so here's the information. Let's see. It will get you involved in ongoing research study on educational technology use. So the next step is to obtain the correct information from your instructor, the contact information, which I have given to you. Contact the interviewee with a request for a convenient time to conduct the interview and an appropriate phone number to call. Conduct the interview at the designated time and ask all of the interview questions in the form. So there's a form attached here you'll need to use, and make sure you ask all of those questions. And be sure to record your call. When the interview is finished, transcribe the audio of the interview. Put the transcribed information onto the provided form. So you need to type up every word in the interview and use the provided form to fill in that information, and then submit the provided form with all the transcribed interview to the appropriate Dropbox in D2L. And now if you have a fully transcribed interview, I don't really put a rubric for this activity because it's a research activity, and if you did it, you did it. But you do need to have the full transcription of the interview up there so that I can review that. What's cool about this is it will actually become a part of a publication or presentation for sure, maybe a publication on technology use among South Dakota teachers and what technologies they're using and how they're using them. And so the questions that you have in the research activity itself in this form will actually inform us about technology use among South Dakota teachers. And so notice in here, in the form that's provided, you just want to copy and paste this, hello, and put their name in. My name is, put your name in, obviously. And this is your first email contact. I'm a student at Northern State University. And then it asks for days to set up the phone interview. It should only take about a half hour or less time. And then when you start your interview questions, this is an interview protocol. And in research we have these because we want to make sure that everything is consistent so that each one of you follows the same directions as you interview your participant. The next one is interview questions, and it says, hello, my name is, and you want to say exactly what these things say to start out the interview. And then you go from there. Now, you're going to ask at one point, is it okay if I record our conversation today? If somebody says no to that, then you're going to have to be creative on how to record the conversation. You're probably going to have to type up the answers as they write them down and then fill in more information later. But I haven't encountered very many people who say no to that question. And so, but if they do say no to that, then you have to do that. You cannot record the conversation if somebody does not agree to have that in your research study. So, and then the transcript. So once you have recorded it, you're going to play it back and type it up. And you're going to type in the name, school district. So you're just going to type up the appropriate answers in this box right here to each question until you get to the end. And then you'll have a question, that's all I want to ask about today. Is there anything else you would like to mention before we finish our interview? And fill in any information there. Thank you for your time and for being willing to be interviewed. Have a good day. Goodbye. And so it really tells you what to do for this project. I've given you the list of people to contact and some tools to make sure that you record. That might be the trickiest part, is just figuring out that recording thing. So that's why I require you to test it out first. And that's the assignment. Now that's due on March 5th, but this week we have, of course, a kickoff of that assignment. You can do it any time from now till March 5th, and there does need to be some time for you to give the person to set up the research activity, right? You have to be able to email them. It might take a few days for them to respond. So that's why I'm telling you about this activity now, because then you can get started on it. You can go ahead and send that first email, but make sure again that you're following what's in the assignment, the protocol, writing exactly what I tell you to write in the email. And then you can get it set up and have that meeting with anyone, with your assigned person anyway. So each student will only have one assigned person as part of this activity. Now a couple more things this week. You're going to be reading about survey research, and in fact this research study that you're going to be participating in is survey research. Although your part is a qualitative follow-up, it's not necessarily the actual survey itself. I used Google Forms to administer the survey. And it's a cross-sectional survey research. It's not longitudinal. You'll be reading about this, but cross-sectional is kind of taking a single cross-section of a population rather than doing it multiple times. So you'll be reading Chapter 7 about survey research, Chapter 8 about correlational research, and in Chapter 7 as well, you're going to be learning about questionnaires and interviews and how that relates to survey research. And in the process there, you'll read about the process of constructing that research. And you can read in the research activity that I have created for you to do in the IRB. It talks about the process that I went through to submit this survey and to complete it. And then Chapter 8 is on correlational research. And then you'll be posting a little bit about your own research this week, about explaining the research instrument that you think you want to use in your research study, and what types of considerations would be made when you select an instrument for a research study. And then to round out the week, you'll have Chapters 7 and 8 quizzes to finish up. So those are the activities for this week. An interesting point in the correlational research is that correlation is not causation, but it allows us to predict things. So correlation means things match up as far as data is concerned, but it doesn't mean that one thing necessarily causes another thing. And to show a couple of examples of this, there are some great graphs here about correlation versus causation. So here we have a divorce rate in Maine and per capita consumption of margarine. Look at those numbers. In 2000, they went down. So as the divorce rate in Maine goes down, so does the per capita consumption of margarine. Does that mean the consumption of margarine causes the divorce rate to go up or down? No, not really. They just seem to correlate quite well. And so we might be able to predict that as the consumption of margarine increases, so does the divorce rate in Maine. But that might not be a very good prediction to make either, right? It doesn't make much sense. Here's another one. Number of people who drowned by falling into a swimming pool, and number of films by Nicolas Cage appeared in. So again, it seems like the more films that Nicolas Cage appears in, the more people who drown by falling into a swimming pool. But clearly those things are not related unless you really hate Nicolas Cage. And then U.S. spending on science, space, and technology, and suicides by hanging, strangulation, and suffocation. So again, these charts are meant to remind us that though these concepts correlate, U.S. spending on science, space, and technology probably doesn't cause more suicides by hanging, strangulation, and suffocation. They just go along with each other. They just happen to go along even though they're not necessarily related. Sometimes with correlational research, again, you can predict an outcome. You can say, well, I think that as the number of socioeconomic status, lower socioeconomic status students, the higher the grades would be. You can predict that based on some correlational research, or at least make an educated guess, but you can't say that it causes that one item causes another. So as you read that chapter on correlational research, just keep that in mind. Correlation is not causation. Here we go. Age of Miss America, murders by steam, hot vapors, and hot objects. Those correlate quite nicely too, as you see the numbers follow each other. But of course, the age of Miss America is not going to cause murders by steam, hot vapors, and hot objects. All right, well, that's a long enough video, I think. So anyway, this is going to be a good week, and I'm excited for you guys to be able to participate in this research study that I've been doing since last semester. And you'll learn some important and interesting concepts as you prepare for and complete this research activity. Have a great week.